Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Between the Bumps, the Raw review show. Got a little thunderstorm going on here in the good old PR, so I hope that if you hear any thunder, you can just bear with me, because I cannot do anything about the weather. I am not a god, nor am I Zeus, nor am I any weather-controlling deity. So, let's start. Raw was actually a pretty good show this week. I thought it was really good. Most segments were very pleasing. So, we were told that Raw was going to kick off with Asuka facing Charlotte Flair. However, this did not happen because Asuka enters the ring. But before Charlotte comes out, Sasha Banks and Bayley come out instead. And Asuka was very displeased about this. So, they go back and forth. Asuka tells them to leave her ring. And Bayley and Sasha remind her, like, hey, we're the tag champs. We can go on whichever brand we want. And then, eventually, Charlotte makes her entrance. So, Charlotte told them to make their little victory lap quick before they lose their titles again. Obviously referencing the fact that they lost their titles at WrestleMania the year before to the Iconics. Then, the Iconics come out to interrupt this little scuffle, this little interaction. And they start talking about how they beat Bayley and Sasha for the titles, and they let us know that at Backlash we are getting a triple threat tag team match for the titles that will feature the Iconics, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and Sasha Banks and Bayley, the champions. So then they all go back and forth a little bit. Charlotte at one point tells Bayley and Banks that whether they have one title or two titles, she doesn't need any titles to be relevant. She being Charlotte. That she does not need gold around her waist to be relevant, and that they can have all the titles they want, but they are still garbage. And that is when Asuka and Charlotte were attacked by the two teams. Bayley and Banks attacked Charlotte, the Iconics attacked Asuka. Or I think reverse. Either way, they were attacked. That's the important part. And so instead of getting Charlotte and Asuka to start, we got a triple threat match between these three teams. So the first match was obviously Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Charlotte and Asuka versus the Iconics. And Banks and Peyton Royce start the match off. They're, hitting each other. They're going back and forth. They both team up to drop Asuka and Charlotte off of the apron. Bayley gets tagged in, Billie Kay gets tagged in, and she pulls Bayley down by the hair. And then Flair got the blind tag on Billie Kay, and the crowd, the NXT crowd, started chanting for Asuka, and Charlotte pretended like she was going to tag in Asuka. But then she did not. She did that classic, playground bully thing where she extends her hand and then she swipes the hair just like, nah, that's not going to happen. So, Banks was legal because Bayley got taken out by Flair. And Asuka was able to get the blind tag on to Charlotte again. And she got back into the match. And she cleared out Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Sasha Banks. So, we cut to commercial, and after the commercial, we come back to see that Asuka is getting double teamed by the Iconics, and then Banks and Bayley double team her as well. So, Flair comes in, she got a blind tag, and things get heated between her and Asuka. They start bickering over this series of blind tags. And Flair was setting up for a moonsault, but Asuka blind tagged herself in again, locked in the Asuka lock on Billie Kay. Charlotte and Asuka defeat the Iconics and Bayley and Sasha Banks. it was a good match. It was a good match. Everyone was hard-hitting. Everyone got their chance to show their stuff. It was not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty good start to Raw. And after the match, Flair hit Asuka with a big boot. She posed with the Raw Women's Championship, and she tells Asuka, you've never beaten me. Which, she's got a point. She's telling the truth. Asuka has never beaten Charlotte Flair one-on-one. So then, we go into the next segment. And the commentators were setting up for the interview with Rey Mysterio. But as they're doing so, Seth Rollins comes out. He walks over to the commentary desk. He tells Byron Saxton to get up and to give him his headset, and saying that he wants to be a part of this whole interview. He wants to talk to Rey himself. So we come back after another commercial break, and Rey starts talking about how he said that his doctors are promising nothing, but they are hopeful because his eye is healing. And he tells Seth that as soon as he gets cleared, if he gets cleared, he's going to kick his ass. And so Seth was furious. Seth starts saying, Rey, you need to stop twisting reality. You need to stop putting this message out there because you're corrupting what I did. And that is wrong. And he's like, you know what, Rey? I invite you and your son Dominic to Raw next week so that I can show you in person that your sacrifice was for the greater good of Raw. And Rey gets pissed. Rey is just like, you know what? You're only inviting me right now because you know I'm not currently medically cleared. If I was medically cleared, you would not be inviting me. And then he tells Seth in Spanish that he's going to make his life a living hell. And then literally out of nowhere, I'm talking out of nowhere, Aleister Black just comes and leaps over the commentary table and just tackles Seth Rollins. And then that leads us into a match between Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo taking on Murphy and Austin Theory. So we start the match with Humberto Carrillo and Austin Theory, and Murphy gets tagged in after they go back and forth for a little bit, and Black was also tagged in after dodging Murphy's Law, but Theory interrupted the Black Mask before being caught in a really big kick that dropped him on the outside. It was a very stiff kick, if I'm being honest. So they go back and forth again. Humberto Carrillo hits a big dive to the outside. He's able to take out Theory. Aleister Black is able to finish off Buddy Murphy in the ring. They pick up the win. Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo defeated Austin Theory and Buddy Murphy. And then, after the match, Rollins, so Rey Mysterio's music starts to hit, and everyone's like, what? Is Rey here? But Rollins comes out wearing Rey Mysterio's mask. And then he had Austin Theory and Buddy Murphy throw out Humberto Carrillo, and then he focuses on Aleister. And they're holding Aleister up against the ropes. And Seth is pretty much telling him, I told you what would happen if you messed with me. I told you what would happen if you tried to be a hero. I warned you. And so Theory had hit the ATL onto Carrillo. So Carrillo's out. Then Rollins commands Murphy to hit Black with Murphy's Law. And then they grab him, just like last week. They set him up for the curb stomp. Rollins hits the curb stomp, and he uses Black as an example. So it was a good match. Aleister Black, Humberto Carrillo, Buddy Murphy, and Austin Theory are all extremely talented, and they have really good chemistry together. And I love this Seth Rollins character, where he comes out in a suit and a tie, and he's just got this very mafioso boss feeling about him. How he's just going to take out all of his enemies, regardless of how you feel about it, and he will hurt you if he has to, and he believes he's in the right. So, it was a good match. It was a good little segment after the match. Nothing to complain about there. So then we have a backstage segment with Charlie Caruso interviewing Randy Orton. And Randy asks her, he's like, hey, just correct me if I'm wrong, but how many guests are scheduled to be on the Peep Show later tonight? And Charlie lets him know, oh, well, there's only one guest scheduled. And Edge is like, look, keep this between you and me. This is some insider information, but there's actually going to be two. So kind of teasing the fact that he is going to interrupt that segment later. So then we start the Peep Show with Edge and Christian, and this was shocking. It was an amazing segment. Let me just say that before I continue. It was awesome. Like, it was awesome. It really was. Because, okay, I was expecting the very normal WWE thing where Christian comes out, starts praising Edge, telling Edge why he can do this, but he does the exact opposite. He literally tells him that even in his prime, he couldn't put on the greatest match ever. And he's like, and now you're coming back 9 years later, a 46-year-old man, and you think you're going to put on the greatest match ever? And Edge is pissed. Edge is just like, well, I am sorry if I'm doubting myself. I'm sorry if after 9.5 years, I have this thing inside of me that's getting in my own head and making me feel like I can't do this. I'm sorry. And Christian just looks at him, and Edge has the best crazy look in the world, on planet Earth. Edge's crazy face is the greatest crazy face of all time. Like, I want it on a poster. So, Edge and Christian are having this stare down, and Christian just kind of starts smirking, and he's like, there you go. That's the look. That's what I was looking for. That is what I was trying to draw out of you. And he says, look, you can do this. We believe in you. Your mom was there at every show you main evented. Every pay-per-view, your mom was there. And you know she's with you here this time. We believe in you. You've got this. You can put on the greatest wrestling match ever. And then Randy Orton interrupts. He's on the Titantron, and he tells them to shut the hell up. He's like, look, Edge is not going to compare to me. I am going to break him. I am going to send him back home to his beautiful wife and his beautiful daughters. He even named them by name. And he said, look, this whole redemption thing that Edge has going on, it's over. It is over. And then Christian starts telling Edge, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. Like, it is nonsense. And Edge just looks at Orton and he says, you know what? No, it's not over. It is not. And Edge walks out of the ring. Really good segment. Edge and Christian have great chemistry. Both of them are great talkers. But I think what really got me about this segment was how unexpected it went. I did not expect for Christian to just start roasting Edge to start the segment and then lead it into like, there you go. I built you back up. I pulled it out of you. It was good. It was really good. Edge, Orton, they have some of the most easy to believe promos. Like, I think Randy Orton gets a lot of flack because he wrestles a style that is quote unquote boring. But when it comes to just talking, he's a really good talker. Like, I don't think anyone can deny that. Like, he is a great talker. He's intimidating. He's well-spoken. He's also not one to go on these long-winded rants. Like, he says what he's got to say. He's very precise, very cut and dry about everything. And then Edge is just amazing. Edge has always been amazing on the mic, but now that he's back, there's this level of passion because he's back doing what he loves. And you can just feel it exuding through the screen every time Edge is talking. He just seems so happy to be where he's at. And, like, it makes you want to root for Edge. I've said it before. I grew up with Edge as a heel. Like, my entire childhood, Edge was a bad guy. And I'm talking an asshole. Like, he was such a bad dude. He was a heel as you can get. And so when he came back, and I realized that we were going to babyface him because we don't have a choice. No one's going to boo Edge right now. It made me wonder if he could pull off a babyface role. Because I've never seen him do it. My whole childhood, when I was watching Edge, growing up watching Edge, he was the heel. But he can. He can be a babyface. That is how talented Edge is that he can interchange between the two very easily. Thus far, Edge has been able to pull off the babyface role damn near perfectly, if not perfectly. Like, Edge is so talented. Like I said, I grew up with Edge as a heel. I only ever knew Edge as a heel. So for him to not be a heel, I was trepidatious about it, but he has proven me wrong. He has proven me that his talent is not just in being a heel. He can be a babyface character, and he can be a believable babyface character. So after the Peep Show, we have a backstage segment with MVP, and he is doing an interview, and R-Truth comes out of nowhere. No, okay, R-Truth doesn't come out of nowhere. The camera pans over to R-Truth, who is trying to get in one of these production boxes to hide, because he is the new 24/7 champion, and he doesn't want anyone taking his title. So MVP starts insulting him, just saying like, bro, you're a fucking joke. You are a joke, you're a clown. You're just a clown. And R-Truth's like, just come on, dog, do me the favor, don't tell no one where I am, be cool. And MVP was anything but cool. Lashley comes up, puts a full Nelson on R-Truth, and pretty much just tosses him about. I don't know why we gotta be so mean to R-Truth all the time, but we gotta. That's just how things work in WWE nowadays. Lashley is a bully. But it was a fine segment. It was okay. R-Truth cracks me up. Like, a lot of people don't like R-Truth. I love R-Truth. R-Truth always makes me laugh. Like, he's so funny. So then we got into a segment, and I'm going to be a broken record here because I am still torn on the Street Profits and Viking Raiders segments because, like I say, they are funny. They are entertaining. I would be lying to you if I said that these segments did not entertain me. I'd be lying. But I would also be lying if I said that they don't bother me to a certain extent. Just because this is the Raw Tag Team Championship scene. This is what we are doing with the Raw Tag Team Championships. So, the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, they engage in a decathlon. They did some sword fighting, some sprinting, some archery. They did flip the cup, hurdles, stick fighting, a dance-off, shot put, and a turkey leg eating contest, as well as a pole vault contest. And they were tied at the end of the decathlon. The segments were all really funny. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. I will not deny that. I will not discredit the fact that all four of these men are really good at being funny and being entertaining. Because they are. Eric and Ivar, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins, they are all very funny men, and they all pull off comedy super well. But it still bothers me that this is the championship scene. You know, we're not building up to a match. We're not... I don't know. Like, I assume we're going to build up to the match because it's going to be like, look, we keep tying. The only way we're going to settle this is in the ring. That's the only way. So I'm torn. And I know I'm a broken record. I say this every week on the Raw Review Show. But I am torn. Because these segments are legitimately entertaining. They are legitimately funny. But it irks me that this is the tag team championship scene. The women's tag team championship scene is nothing like this. The women's tag team championship scene is currently building up to a triple threat. We just had a title change. Those belts are treated as serious, and so I take them seriously. But the Raw Tag Team Championships are a joke. I don't care about them anymore. Why should I? Why would I? When this is what we're doing. So even though the segments are funny, I just can't get it out of the back of my head that this is the championship scene. It's a joke. And I don't know. Like, the segments themselves are enjoyable. I watch them and I enjoy them as I'm watching them. But I really wish this wasn't the championship scene. Then we move on into what was probably the best match of the night. It was Andrade versus Angel Garza versus Kevin Owens in a triple threat for the #1 contendership for the United States Championship. So Apollo Crews comes out and he's the one who announces the match. And as Andrade and Garza are making their entrances, for some reason they entered together with Zelina Vega, Kevin Owens attacks both of them, trying to get the upper hand, understanding that, hey, they're probably going to jump me, so I should get the jump on them first. And so, throughout the entire match, Garza and Andrade were teaming up on Owens. They were just beating the shit out of Owens. Then, at one point during the match, Andrade he's trying to get a pinfall on Kevin Owens, but Garza breaks it up because this is a triple threat match and Garza wants a championship title opportunity too. So Garza and Andrade are fighting on the outside, and Zelina Vega is trying to break it up. She's trying to keep the peace between them, and she accidentally gets hit by the two men. So we go to a commercial, and when we get back from the commercial, Owens is hitting a senton on Garza, and it looks like he's going to get the pin, but Andrade breaks it up. Owens hits a splash on Andrade for another near fall. Then he hits a suicide dive on both Garza and Andrade. And finally, Owens is able to hit the stunner on Garza, but Andrade breaks up the pin, takes out Owens, and pins Garza himself. So Andrade wins the match. He is going on to face Apollo Crews at Backlash for the United States Championship. So after the match, we have a backstage interview with Charlotte Flair, and as she's being interviewed, Asuka comes in and interrupts. She's dancing around, doing her normal Asuka shtick, and Flair asks her if she takes anything seriously. And so to show her that she takes things seriously, Asuka just slaps her. And it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it's what happened. Then we have another backstage segment which show Andrade and Angel Garza. They're arguing about who hurt Zelina, about why Andrade stole the pin, this, that, whatever. And then Zelina shows up, angry, injured, and just points at them, and they all three walk away. She kind of treated them like, like little kids who were punished. And I questioned this in the moment. I was like, why are they scared of Zelina Vega, of all people? She's like 4'2". Like, what's she gonna do to them? But, I guess an angry Zelina is not a Zelina that either one of them want to encounter. Then we have another backstage segment, and Eric and Ivar are chilling before their match with MVP and Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre shows up. And he tells them that they should come get a drink. And they're like, oh, well, we got a match. And he's like, fine. That's understandable. But, after your match, after the show, let's go have a party. Let's go have fun. Also, keep your eye on the MVP lounge. I think y'all are going to be, on the VIP lounge, I think y'all are going to be interested in it. Then we had a interview with Kurt Angle. And he was just talking about the Edge versus Randy Orton, talking about how both of these men are extremely talented, and pretty much gave his prediction that Edge is going to beat Randy at Backlash. So then we had the VIP lounge, and Bobby Lashley was supposed to be the guest, but Drew McIntyre makes his way out instead. And then MVP tells Drew, look, on Sunday, you're losing your title. You are going to lose your title to Bobby Lashley. And McIntyre says, yeah, you know what? You talk big when you're hiding behind Bobby Lashley. That's all you're doing. You're hiding behind the big guy. And so Drew gives MVP a countdown as if he's going to Claymore him. But Lashley comes up behind him. He did not get the chance to attack. Then MVP was going to try to attack. And as he's running to attack McIntyre turns, hits him with the Glasgow kiss, and then the Viking Raiders make their entrance to start the match between Lashley, MVP, and the Viking Raiders. So the match is underway, and early on the Vikings are dominating. They're beating them, and Eric tosses Ivar on to MVP. Lashley gets tagged in. He hits a spine buster on Eric. MVP got a few near falls, but Ivar comes in, saves the match, and hits a senton before sending Lashley outside. And then Lashley is on the outside after the Street Profits distract MVP, and Ivar wipes both of them out. Lana was watching from backstage, and she had a small interview and saying, you know what, I've focused too much on Lashley. I haven't been focusing on myself. I should focus more on myself. So that's what I'm going to do. Then Drew McIntyre and Lashley have this small stare down on the outside of the ring. And after that, Lashley hits a nasty looking spear onto Ivar. Very nasty. Then he goes into the ring, locks the full Nelson in on Eric. Eric taps out. MVP and Bobby Lashley beat the Viking Raiders. And then Ivar tries to attack MVP after the match, but Lashley catches him in the full Nelson too. The Street Profits try to help them out, but Drew is the one who eventually makes a save by hitting Lashley with a Claymore. So then we get to the main event of the evening. Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. These women are pulling double duty. So, Sasha Banks and Bayley come out, but this time they're going to be on commentary, and the Iconics were sitting in the crowd watching. So, Charlotte just unloads on Asuka right as the bell rang. Like, she just goes crazy, and she tosses Asuka over the announce table very early in the match. However, we cut to commercial, and after we return, Asuka has taken control. She hits a nice dragon screw suplex, and Charlotte is able to send her into the barricade before applying a headlock. Then the Iconics appear out of the crowd, and they attack Sasha Banks and Bayley. So Flair continues to dominate Asuka throughout the match in the ring. She just continues to beat her. She hits a big knee strike on her. Asuka hits a drop kick off the ropes, and then she goes for a German suplex before sending Flair out with a hip attack. And the two of them start trading submissions, but both women were exhausted by this point. So Asuka takes a spear, but she gets a huge kick onto Charlotte, and then Nia Jax comes out of nowhere to try to attack her. But before Nia Jax is able to attack her, Asuka's able to hit the hip attack on her. She's sent out of the ring, but Flair takes advantage of this distraction, and she pinned Asuka. And Charlotte Flair has now pinned our Raw Women's Champion. Now look, a loss to Charlotte is never really that damaging. WWE has always built Charlotte up as the standard in the women's division, and it did take a distraction to do so. It's not like she beat her completely clean. However, I'm not a fan of our Raw Women's Champion taking a visible pin on Raw. I'm not a fan of it. Hopefully, this means that Asuka will be able to retain her title. But here's what I fear. I fear that now, Charlotte Flair is going to be inserted into the triple threat match this Sunday, and we are going to get Asuka versus Charlotte versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's title, and Charlotte is going to win the title. I don't want this. I don't want it. Asuka should stay the champion for a while. If you ask me, in my opinion, I like Asuka as the Raw Women's Champion. Asuka has this energy about her, and in these empty arena shows, they're not empty anymore, but it's not a real crowd. In this era of shows, I think the best bet is to leave it on Asuka, because Asuka is the funnest woman. She is the woman who most entertains me. I think she should be the champion. I think that she's a believable champion. In ring, her skill set makes her look dominant. We should treat Asuka as if she is dominant. And if she loses the title now, that is going to prove that she was just a transitional champion. And Asuka should never, ever be a transitional champion. You could build the entire women's division around Asuka if you really wanted to. She is that talented. So I don't think that she should be dropping the title to Charlotte, who does not need the title. And the title doesn't need Charlotte. The Raw Women's Championship still feels special. You don't need Charlotte to hold it, and Charlotte does not need to hold it. Charlotte is relevant regardless. WWE treats her like that. So we do not need Charlotte to win the title, and honestly, Nia Jax is not ready to win the title. people are sour on Nia Jax. No one wants her to win the title, and not for the right reasons. That's not heel heat. She has real life heat because we just got to call a spade here, okay? Nia Jax has injured a lot of people. More people than anyone should be injuring. And the real reason Nia Jax got called up from developmental so early is because she's a big girl. Like, I like Nia Jax. Personally, I'm a fan, but we have to call a spade. When you are injuring people, when you are doing these things on a consistent basis, if it's just once, or even just twice, fine. But it happens to her often. It happens to her quite often. She is the reason the Buckle Bomb got banned. Nia Jax is the entire reason the Buckle Bomb got banned. Because even when Seth Rollins separated Finn Balor's shoulder with it, we did not ban the move. And that's because 9 times out of 10, Rollins can perform the move safely. 9 times out of 10, Nia Jax does not. That is not me trying to shit on Nia Jax. That is not me trying to trash talk Nia Jax. That is just the truth. The fact of the matter is that Nia Jax is not the safest worker. She needs work. She's a little green in the ring. She's not that great on the mic. She can be, but she's not yet. So she should not be the champion. I get the desire to have a big, scary woman be your champion. But Nia Jax is not ready for that. She wasn't ready the first time she held the championship, and her run with it was lackluster at best. So, I don't think we should take the belt off Asuka, and I really hope we don't insert Charlotte into that match on Sunday. Because if it's Asuka versus Nia Jax, so far Asuka's had Nia Jax's number. And Asuka will probably be going over in that match. But if it is Asuka versus Charlotte versus Nia, we're almost guaranteed to have Charlotte win that match. And I don't think that's the right call. I think Asuka should remain champion. And I hope Asuka remains the champion, at least for a couple months. Especially during this whole crazy, situation that we're in, where wrestling is drastically different. Asuka has been one of the MVP players, if not the MVP player of the empty arena era. She's amazing. She is a delight. She is always fun to watch. So, I'm hoping she gets to keep the title, because I think she's the best choice for champion right now. So that was Raw. And Raw was a good show. It was not a bad show by any stretch of the imagination. It was actually really good. I enjoyed most of it. I'm really trying to think of something that, really heavily displeased me. And I really can't think of anything. It was all pretty good. It was all pretty good. I would give this a safe 8.5 out of 10. Even maybe a 9 out of 10. Because it was a good show. It really was. They did a good job. We had some great matches. Asuka and Charlotte ended a little wacky, but that match was amazing. The triple threat between Andrade, KO, and Angel Garza was just spectacular. It was an amazing match. So, I think this was a really good episode of Raw. I think this was a really good edition of Raw. And it is an edition that was easy to watch. It was fun. I'm still a little torn about the Viking Raiders Street Profits segment. Although I will say this decathlon one was probably the best one they've done so far. It's the one that's cracked me up the most. And like I said, Eric and Ivar, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins are all really funny guys. And they pull it off really well. My only issue is that it's the championship scene, and it shouldn't be. But this was a good show. I enjoyed the show very much. I'm a positive guy when it comes to wrestling. I'm not gonna lie. I try to find the reasoning and the positivity behind everything. But this show was really easy. I didn't have to grasp at straws to find positive things to say about it. It was just really good. So kudos to you, WWE. You put on a good episode of Raw yesterday. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the good episode of Raw, because sometimes, as we all know, Raw can be a little difficult to digest, but this time it was really good, very enjoyable, and an easy show to watch. It didn't fly by like Dynamite or Smackdown flies by, but that is just a price you pay with a 3-hour show. Like, I wish, at least for the time being, Raw could just be reduced to 2 hours. If Raw was reduced to 2 hours with the quality that they've been putting on each week, it would be a much better show. It would be spectacular. But they have a 3-hour contract to fill. That's their time slot. It's been this way for years. There's no point in trying to harp on it anymore. But even for a 3-hour show, I had fun. It was not hard to watch at any point. At any point this week. It was really good. So kudos to you, WWE. You did a good job this week. You really did. I think, see, it's unfortunate to say, but when WWE's back is against the wall, they produce their best content. That is undeniable. When they are pushed up against the wall, that is when they come out of clutch and they kill it. They do a really good job. So Raw gets 2 thumbs up from me. I thought it was good and I enjoyed myself. And so that's it, guys. That's all I got to say about Raw. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Well, everybody, this has been Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys later.